The Philadelphia 76ers just won a game on a VJ Edgecombe last-second tip-in that they had no business winning whatsoever. They were up by 20 points in the first quarter to the Warriors without Steph Curry, without Jimmy Butler. No Draymond Green in the second half. They were up by 22 at halftime, blew the entire lead. To listen closely, Pat Spencer and Quentin Post. And they pulled off the victory on a VJ Edgecombe tip-in. There's so many things I want to say about this game. Let's go.
Sixers, why won't you just lose and put me out of my misery? Why do you gotta keep doing this to me, bro? Nobody else should touch the ball right here. He shoots it from the logo. Oh, we're going to overtime! Tyrese Maxey is a god amongst men!
Welcome back to Run It Back Philly. Sixers postgame live. I can't even help but laugh. That was such a ridiculous way to win a game that should not have come down to the wire. I am conflicted. I feel like I have multiple personalities inside of me right now. Anybody that heard me at the end of the game, you know, I'm always rooting for the Sixers to win. Obviously, I love Tyrese Maxey. Obviously, I love VJ Edgecombe. At the same time, I was so pissed off that they blew that lead. I'm fighting myself internally, and I'm gonna try to get all my thoughts out on this podcast episode. Give me 1,000 likes on this, by the way. Hit the like button 1,000 times over and over and over again, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're over there on the audio platform, give us a 5-star review, please. That would help us. We are ranking up fast. We are number 3 on Apple Podcasts when you type Sixers into the app. This is brought to you by Bright Medical Technology. Bright Medical is Pennsylvania's largest medical supplier and pharmacy, specializing in oral nutrition and tube feeding supplies. I'm going to need a tube feeding supply if the 76ers keep going down to the wire with Pat Spencer and the like this season. Incontinence supplies, ambulatory aids. I'm going to need somebody. Somebody needs to call Bright Medical for me if the Sixers keep having fourth quarters like that. All right, let me get through the ad read. Ambulatory aids, respiratory products, and diabetic supplies. I'm going to be a diabetic. All right, I'm just kidding. Bright Medical works with most PA insurance companies and can deliver anywhere in Pennsylvania. They offer hand delivery services and UPS. So I'm going to need someone to hand deliver me some meds if they keep doing that. Servicing patients from all ages. Their call staff speaks 15 languages and is always live, never an automated system. Don't forget they have generic ED meds, so you can get your game back in the bedroom when it comes down to the wire. When it comes down to the last second, you can pull it off just like VJ Edgecombe did. If you are unsure where to get your health supplies, call Bright Medical today, 215-725-MEDS. That's 215-725-6337. Or go to brightmedi.com. Thank you to Bright Medical for sponsoring the Sixers postgame live show all season long. 250 in here. Give me 250 likes. All right, let's get into it, man. The Sixers were up by 20 in the first quarter. Now, this is the Warriors without Steph Curry. This is the Warriors without Draymond Green. Well, they had Draymond Green to start the game. He came up limp in the second quarter, didn't come back in the second half. This is the Warriors without Jimmy Butler. And I was unaware how bad the Warriors are without Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, at least for most of this game. They looked like a straight-up G League team. I actually don't even know if they looked like a G League team for most of this game. And the Sixers got out to a 20-point lead. The Warriors almost finished the first quarter with 5 points. They had 5 points with a minute left in the first quarter, ripped off a couple of buckets. First quarter ended 30-10. Sixers were up by 22 at halftime. And then they were outscored in the third quarter 32-24. And they were outscored in the fourth quarter 32-19. And it was an absolutely disgusting collapse. Just an embarrassing, disgusting collapse. An inexcusable collapse. It really was. They're lucky they pulled off the victory at the end. Nick Nurse is lucky they pulled off the victory at the end because now he gets to escape this disaster scot-free. But anybody that really watched the game, this was an embarrassing collapse because it wasn't just a collapse. If this was Steph Curry hitting those shots in that fourth quarter, That's just what Steph Curry does, right? If this was Klay Thompson back in the day, getting hot in the fourth quarter, right? If this was even Draymond Green. No, it wasn't any of those guys. You say, oh, the Sixers blew a lead to the Warriors and barely pulled off a victory. Well, it must have been Steph Curry or Klay Thompson or Jimmy Butler or even Jonathan Kuminga or Buddy Hield. No, it was Pat Spencer and Quentin Post. Yeah, Pat Spencer. And I learned from the chat that he was a top lacrosse recruit before choosing the NBA. And I'm not slandering Pat Spencer at all. That dude is cold-blooded. But that's embarrassing for the 76ers because, again, not slandering Pat Spencer, but he looks like he just worked at a bank for 8 hours and decided to go play a basketball game afterwards. That's... come on, man. He's wearing number 61. There's not even number 61 in the NBA. That's not even an NBA jersey, bro. Number 61 Warriors jersey, that's a knockoff jersey at TJ Maxx. But seriously, Pat Spencer was ice cold, but that is embarrassing for the 76ers. He was on such a fourth quarter tear that in crunch time, he somehow channeled Steph Curry. Steph Curry magically passed Pat Spencer his powers in the fourth quarter. And without even a play run, with no motion going on at all, Pat Spencer just held the ball, stared down his defender, and shot the most cold-blooded three-point attempt I think I've ever seen in my life and walked away from it. Splash. Everybody in the world knew it was going in. And then he turned around and yelled in the 76ers arena, "I'm that motherfucker." Bro, Pat Spencer did that in the middle of Philadelphia and yelled, "I'm that motherfucker." That is, bro. I don't know if I've seen the 76ers be embarrassed worse than Pat Spencer was embarrassing them in that fourth quarter. And the Sixers, I got to give them credit. They refused to quit. They refused to give up. All of those classic 76ers collapses where you just see the momentum go to the other team and you just see the other team start to have this insane level of confidence, and it doesn't matter who they are. Quentin Post was bombing threes in the fourth quarter. You would have thought he was Dirk Nowitzki in his prime. And the 76ers refused to quit. VJ Edgecombe comes up with a steal on an inbound, which was called a foul. Nick Nurse challenges the call. He got ball before he got wrist. So Nick Nurse won the challenge, but the NBA somehow, and the NBA shocks me all the time with just how stupid they run things, especially when it comes to replay and challenges. There's no actual rules. The referees can just make shit up. They shock me every year the more I see referees just make up rules. This referee said VJ Edgecombe hit the ball. It was a legal steal. So the call is overturned. But after the play, Quentin Post came up with the ball, so it's Warriors ball. After the play, you blew the whistle. The play is over. So how do the Warriors have the ball because Quentin Post picked it up after the play? Unbelievable call by an NBA official. And again, they just shock me with what they do with challenges every year. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. Anyway, VJ Edgecombe refuses to be defeated, refuses to be turned away. In an epic turn of events, he gets a steal on the next inbound and comes up with the ball, and Nick Nurse calls a timeout immediately. So shout out to VJ Edgecombe. He literally saved the 76ers from an embarrassing collapse with those back-to-back steals, and then down one, Sixers. You know Tyrese Maxey's taking the final shot, and I love that he did. I don't care if it was over a double team. They were so bad in the second half. It all started when Maxey went to the bench. Everybody besides Maxey offensively was horrendous in this game. So I love that Maxey took the shot. I'm glad. I said, bro, Maxey's shooting the ball. Nobody, he better not pass the damn ball. He didn't pass it. He channeled his inner Kobe, shot over a double team. It was short. And VJ Edgecombe tips it in with 0.8 on the clock. And if that wasn't enough, the 76ers are so good at almost losing. They just refuse. They kind of refuse to just win a game. Even when VJ Edgecombe tips in the ball with 0.8 on the clock, the Warriors beat them down the floor. I forget who it was, dude. Was it Buddy Hield? Who was it? They get beat in transition with 0.8 on the clock. They almost lost the game, and Tyrese Maxey blocks a shot to win it. Just a ridiculous roller coaster of an ending for a game that the 76ers were up by 22 at halftime. And again, I'm fighting with myself because I think Nick Nurse is a terrible basketball coach. I really do. And I think these things happen. And then players like Tyrese Maxey, who's on an MVP tear this season, and a player with the athleticism and the heart and the fight of VJ Edgecombe, win the game and bail out the coach who got embarrassed by Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr coached circles around Nick Nurse in this game. He coached circles around Nick Nurse in his game. And if you didn't see the difference between Eric Spoelstra and Nick Nurse when they played the Miami Heat, right? A coach that can make Jaime Jaquez look like an all-star. A coach that has a dude named Pell Larson out there getting buckets. Steve Kerr coached circles around Nick Nurse in his game. Steve Kerr was bringing Pat Spencer off of double screens away from the ball. Steve Kerr was running the plays for Pat freaking Spencer that we scream at Nick Nurse to run for Maxey all the time. Nick Nurse did not adjust. Once again, I mean, they're every game, they're terrible. They're usually terrible in the third quarter. Maxey saved them in the third quarter. I mean, put the entire team on his back again. He did it in the first quarter. He did it in the third quarter. Maxey had 18 points in the third quarter. Guess what? Last game, he had 20 in the third. So Maxey saves you in the third from the inevitable third quarter collapse that you usually have because Nick Nurse does not adjust. The other coach adjusts. Nick Nurse does not adjust. Nick Nurse got his ass kicked by Steve Kerr in this game, and VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey saved him. My thing is, Steve Kerr made a decision in the second half, which is the reason the 76ers scored 43 points in the entire second half. They got outscored 64-43. But especially the fourth quarter. Steve Kerr made a decision. What every coach makes. Hey, everybody not named Tyrese Maxey on this team right now stinks. Offensively. Nobody can score. Double him. Double him at half court. I don't care. Double him. They start doing exactly that. Doubling Maxey half court. Not even half court. Bro, half the time Pat Spencer was face guarding him on a full court press the entire fourth quarter. Maxey could hardly even get the ball inbounded to himself. So Steve Kerr succeeds in completely taking the ball out of Tyrese Maxey's hands. And Nick Nurse once again just watches the entire thing collapse. Does nothing to change it. Now, him having Jared McCain on the floor worked out a couple of possessions in that fourth quarter because you needed somebody that can create with the ball in their hands when Maxey's getting double teamed basically full court the entire fourth, right? So shout out to Jared McCain for that. But for most of the game, I didn't understand Nick Nurse's lineups because he still thinks VJ Edgecombe is the backup point guard. He still runs the second unit with VJ Edgecombe and Quentin Grimes and McCain and Maxey on the bench. I think, call me crazy, but I think it's pretty obvious that you should be staggering Maxey and McCain the entire game. I don't think there should ever be a lineup that Maxey and McCain is not on the floor. They're your only two offensive creators. But we already heard Nick Nurse say out loud the other day that VJ Edgecombe is the backup point guard, and you saw him do that again in this one. VJ's not ready for it, bro. He's not ready for it. He's 20 years old. And he never played point guard before. Make it make sense. He had so many bad turnovers in the second half, and I'm not trashing VJ. It's not his fault. Again, he's 20 years old. That coach is dumb. If you're putting a 20-year-old who never played point guard at backup point guard and watching him have turnover after turnover after turnover, what the fuck are you doing? I'll never understand that. But that's how I feel. That's how I feel about this game. Nick Nurse is a disaster. Maxey and VJ saved the day. Now, I want to talk about a couple of other things because Joel Embiid played in this game, believe it or not. And I'm going to get to the chat. I see a super chat over there already. Joel Embiid played in this game. And you know what? I'm not even going to look at his stat line because I don't care. Because he made a couple of jump shots. He was terrible in this game. Joel Embiid treated this game like it was a preseason game. Like it was a practice, a scrimmage. I mean, what are we watching? Why is he even playing? He's just out there jogging up and down the floor, shooting jumpers, shot like 6 threes for no reason. I think he missed all of them. Refuses to get under the rim, refuses to be physical. He's just not even close to playing like what the 76ers are going to need him to play like if they think they're going to win a playoff series this year. He's not even close to the Joel Embiid that they're going to need. Joel Embiid was bad. And then he didn't come back in the fourth quarter because he clocked in his 20 minutes for the week. Podcast P on the other end played 18 minutes 2 nights ago. Off tonight. Left knee injury management. What is this team doing? This is disgusting. The 76ers are disgusting for this. I don't know what they're doing. It would be one thing if you were some kind of dynasty and you won back-to-back championships and you were like, listen, we really got to just take it easy on Joel and Paul George because, you know, they won us 2 championships in a row, so we know how important it is to get them to the playoffs healthy. Bro, you haven't done anything since 1983. You haven't been back to an Eastern Conference Finals since 2001. You're out here resting these guys like you've proven something and like, oh, we just got to wait till the playoffs. You tried that last year. You didn't even make the playoffs. You're probably going to make the playoffs this year because of Tyrese Maxey being on the tear that he's on, taking the leap forward that he took, and the addition of VJ Edgecombe defensively. But I don't know what their plan is with this Joel Embiid, Paul George thing. It is so embarrassing for a guy to play 18 minutes 2 nights ago. A guy who's been healthy for 2 months. Played 18 minutes 2 nights ago, and now he's out again. And I honestly think it's time for the NBA to start fining the 76ers again for resting healthy players. Last year, they started fining them for resting Embiid. They started saying, hey, what's his injury? It's injury management. No, what's the injury? We know he got injured last year. Then he had surgery. Then he recovered and started playing games. And then you're sitting him out after that. What's the injury? There is no injury. That's the answer. And then they get fined. Paul George, same question. He had the surgery. He's healthy. We watched him play in a couple of games this year. And then you sit him out. What's the injury? There is none. That's the answer. And then they get fined. I think it's time for that. I think it's time for that to happen. And It's just, it just bothers me so much because I don't understand what their plan is. What is your plan? You're really going to try the same thing you did last year? You're going to try to rest these guys the whole season? And you really think you're going to get these guys back and be able to withstand a 7-game playoff series? Are you kidding? Who do they think they're fooling? Who in that 76ers office thinks they're fooling somebody? You're telling me Paul George can't play 2 games in 3 days after logging 18 minutes? And he's going to withstand a 7-game playoff series in a couple of months? Listen, man, I graduated high school with a 1.9 GPA because I didn't do any work, but I'm not stupid. Yeah, I just roasted myself for that. I think that's all I had to say about this one, man. We'll get to the chat here. I see a super chat. Anybody else wants to drop a super chat? First dibs. Super chat, first dibs. Sixers Sicko members, first dibs. Q&A in the chat, hot takes in the chat, all that stuff. Give me all your thoughts. I'm going to sit here and read them and react to them. It's going to be a blast. This is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is offering you $300 in bonus bets when you bet $5 and your bet wins. And on top of that, 3 free months of NBA League Pass. I know you guys are in my chat all the time talking about who has the stream. Somebody give me a link so I can watch it for free illegally. You won't have to do that anymore if you have NBA League Pass. And all you got to do to get 3 free months is use my code RUNITBACK on DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet $5. If your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets and 3 free months of NBA League Pass. Thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring the channel. Also, and I'm not allowed to say this while the ad is running. Now that the ad is over, I'm here to tell you, just put $5 on Paul George's under anytime he plays. That's pretty simple. That's pretty simple, man. Full court press and release. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat, man. Dude, the energy and passion you show, I don't see a lot of other fans that show this. You bring a lot of heart and soul during your show. Happy we fought in the end and got the game-winning shot and block. Let's freaking go, Sixers. Yeah.
That's cool, motherfucker, boy.
Thank you for that, man. Yeah, I'm a crazy Sixers fan, man. I always have been. You know, I grew up in a family with 4. My mom's a crazy Philly sports fan. I have 4 uncles that were crazy Philly sports fans. They weren't into the Sixers. They were Eagles, Flyers, Phillies guys. But we were like yelling at the TV type of loud, you know what I mean? And like what you see on those play-by-plays, it's how I've always been my whole life, bro. And I'll tell you this, I can't watch the Sixers in a public like place. A regular season game on a Monday night doesn't matter. If it's down to the wire in the fourth quarter, I'm yelling. I'm like, dude, people are looking at me like, what's wrong with this guy? I'm like punching the bar top. I'm getting kicked out. Yeah, so this is actually the healthiest way for me to consume 76ers games is the comfort of my own home, so I don't, break any rules and get kicked out of anywhere. But thank you so much for the super chat. Let me see what members are in here, man. Alba Henderson, my man Scott Lawrence. What's up, Scott? Who else is in there? E-Train 9, brand new member, just became a member of Sicko Nation. I think your theory is right. The refs hate Nurse so much that they still awarded the Warriors the ball even though Nurse won the challenge. It might be it. It might be the fact they hate Nick Nurse. If you were an NBA official, would you hate Nick Nurse? Of course you would. He never shuts up. Even after the 76ers blew that lead at the end, which was an embarrassing blown lead, Nick Nurse was yelling at the officials. Yelling at the officials. As his team continues to give up 1 million offensive rebounds, continues to give up 1 million wide open threes. I mean, you would think they would start to defend the hot shooter, even if his name is Pat Spencer. You would think they would start to somehow defend him on the three-point line. Nope, wide open, wide open, wide open. Quentin Post, wide open, wide open. Bro, I don't play 2K anymore, but I used to spam the pick and pop on NBA 2K17, bro. Hold in it was either L1 or R1. Screen, flick the stick for the pick and pop, bang every time, bro. And if the other player didn't adjust or at least manually control the other defender to stay on the center, I was picking and popping all day and he was wide open. It reminds me of that so much. The other team just runs a pick and pop every single play, and the player is wide open every single time. And I don't understand it. You guys need to tone the rhetoric back about Joel Embiid. Why? Why do I need to do that? Why? First of all, what's going to happen if I don't do that? Nothing. And why do I need to do that? He's signed until 2029. He's an absolute shell of himself right now. He plays once a week, and we're signed up for that for 4 more years. And I'm supposed to be happy about that. Mika Tulok 6415, thank you so much for the super chat. The average person works 40 hours a week for about $1,000. PG works 20 minutes a week for 20 mil. Well, he actually averages about $975,000 a week on his contract. So, like, not even exaggerating, Paul George works for 20 minutes a week for $975,000. Yeah, while you and I mean, all I do is watch Sixers games or react to Sixers games, so I can't even really complain. But the average person, yeah. Paul George, man. 18 minutes a week, baby. 18 minutes a week. It's Shazy. Member of Sicko Nation. Nurse is trying to get VJ ready for the playoffs with how he is playing in so many minutes. VJ will not be ready for the playoffs his first year in the NBA. Look, I'm not one of the minutes police. I don't ever really talk about minutes. Tyrese Maxey's leading the NBA in minutes per game. Maxey's young and athletic, and he can handle it. VJ's young and athletic. He can handle it. I don't really believe that playing a guy 40 minutes versus 32 runs him into the ground and then he's tired by the playoffs. I just don't really believe that. Allen Iverson averaged 41 minutes a game for his entire 14-year NBA career, and he never slowed down. I don't really believe that. I do think, though, that VJ Edgecombe is not ready to play point guard in the NBA because he shouldn't be, because he never played point guard before. He doesn't even realize he signed up to play point guard. Suddenly, he's the second unit point guard permanently, just turning the ball over left and right. If Nick Nurse is going to play VJ Edgecombe at backup point guard in the playoffs, it's just chalk it up. What are you talking about, you know? But I don't really believe in the minutes thing, man. I really don't, bro. I think, look, it's a 48-minute game. It's a 40-minute workout, you know? If you go to the gym and work out hard for 40 minutes, in 7 months, are you going to be able to not walk and not work out? No. You go to the gym, you work out for 40 minutes, right? You keep your diet the way it's supposed to be for pre and post workout recovery. You get an adequate amount of sleep. You wake up the next day. You should take a couple days off a week. They have that. But you're telling me you work out hard for 40 minutes, 3 to 4 nights a week, and in 8 months you're not going to be able to work out as hard because you're going to be run down? I don't believe that. I think the minutes thing is crazy. I think it's so overblown by sports scientists. It's ridiculous. Anyway, if we can get better transition scoring plays in, we can shift the ball away from obvious spots where the other team's defense can spot it and contest our shot. Let's see. Nobody cares if Embiid is trying. This is a put up or shut up league. There's no room for feelings or trying or participation. Somebody said Embiid is trying. Yeah, that's just the internet age that we live in. And Don, I do the same thing on Instagram. Whenever all I do is put my honest opinion out there. There is a certain percentage of the internet that doesn't like it because people are soft, man. People are soft. There's people that weren't built for this. They weren't made for this, but they are on the internet and they are soft. And there's people that'll be like, it's kind of like you don't really know who these people are. This could just be somebody's grandma that likes watching the Sixers, Like my mom a little bit to a fault, She's not as hard as I am on this stuff, A couple years ago, she was like, "You're so hard on Tobias. I like him. He's nice. He tries hard." I don't think my mom's in here, so she doesn't know that I'm slandering her right now. But that's what that reminds me of. There's a percentage of people that are just like, "Oh, why are you being so mean?" Like, what do you mean? He's nice. I like him. He tries hard. Why are you guys saying mean things about him? Like, they just don't get it. And it's fine. It's fine. Chip season birds, baby. Chip season birds. The biggest Embiid stan in the chat. He's back. He disappeared for a little while. He is back. Not just Embiid stan, but Tyrese Maxey hater in the chat because he's so much of an Embiid stan. Because, some people, you can't root for both guys or the team, you got to pin them against each other. But Chip Season Birds does not like when people talk negatively about Joel Embiid. He says, whenever anyone says anything about Maxey, you all start crying and blocking people. That's soft. I don't know. I've never blocked anyone for talking bad about Maxey. You're entitled to your opinion. But Tyrese Maxey is on the floor every night. Tyrese Maxey is getting paid to play basketball. And he's playing basketball every night as hard as he possibly can. He's played every single game this season so far, back-to-backs and everything, you name it. So why would anyone say anything negative about Tyrese Maxey, especially this season, when he's top 2 in the NBA in scoring and is the only reason the 76ers have a single victory without Tyrese Maxey this season? So if you or anybody has anything negative to say about Tyrese Maxey this season, that is just pure hatred, in my humble opinion. People are allowed to be frustrated that Joel Embiid is getting max money and is playing once a week, jogging up and down the floor, shooting fadeaway jump shots. People have every right to be frustrated about that, and the fact that Joel Embiid is on a contract until 2029, Sixers fans are over it, bro. They're over it. But you don't watch Sixers games, bro. I already exposed you for that. When you told me the 76ers started the season tanking last year, you didn't realize that their whole team was on the floor and they started the season 5-20. I already exposed you for not watching Sixers games. You just come in, try to defend Embiid, you type a couple of stats, and you be on your way. But it is what it is, man. It's all love. Thanks for being here. Pope Platinum beats that block, put Maxey in the MVP conversation. Well, I think he was already in the MVP conversation, but I think you're right. That block, that block needs to be talked about a lot, because that both ends of the floor, carried you in the second quarter. Well, carried you in the first quarter. This game looked terrible from the start. Both teams looked bad. Bricking left and right, airballing left and right. The Warriors had 5 points in the first quarter with a minute left. Maxey was the only player on the floor that looked like an NBA player in the first quarter. And then the third quarter, when they usually collapse, he drops 18. He puts the whole team on his back in the third quarter again, just like he did last game. And then Steve Kerr strategically takes the ball out of his hands in the fourth quarter. He misses potential game winner over a double team. And then he gets a game-saving block. Yeah. Tyrese Maxey, MVP. I'm with it, man. I'm with it. What else we got? Vincent James. I like Paul George, but at the same time, I was a Harden fan and said we were underestimating him while he was here because he knows how to raise the floor of your team. CP3 would solve our playmaking and turnover issues, even if he came in for 10 minutes a game. That is true, and I made that video a little bit as a joke because I was talking about CP3, the rumor that the Clippers let him go because he was criticizing the management and the team. I made that video a little bit of as of a joke because I said we need somebody to come in here and criticize this team. What would solve our playmaking issues is Jared McCain being the backup point guard. I mean, why are you running 20-year-old VJ Edgecombe as the backup point guard who never played point guard before? It doesn't make any damn sense. Doesn't make any sense. No. And no, realistically, Chris Paul is cooked. Stop it. He's 40 years old. He's cooked. He's cooked. Maxey played through a shoulder injury that he sustained a few games ago. This is not a team thing. It's an individual thing. Joel needs to face reality. And PG needs to face trial for theft. Wrong one. I don't want to boo you. That was the wrong one. Hold on. I meant to do this one.
That's called motherfucker, boy.
No, look, man. The Paul George needs to face trial for theft. I agree with that. Joel Embiid, look, I never slander Joel Embiid personally. I love what Joel Embiid did for this team. I loved watching Joel Embiid's career. He's one of the most, I've said a million times, he's the most skilled center I've ever seen. I'm frustrated with the fact that Joel Embiid is on that contract and he can't play. I don't really ever question Joel Embiid's want to play, although I think he's a little more laid back than he used to be because he's been in the league for so long, you know, and when he talks about like, well, I did it, you know, or when they talk about Maxey carrying the team when Embiid's on the bench and he's like, it's about time, I did that for 10 years, you know. He kind of does now have this attitude that feels like he's kind of checked out a little bit. I do got to be honest. He seems like, and the way that he talks, like sometimes, you know, everything I did for this team, I don't deserve this shit, like that type of stuff, tells me that Joel Embiid feels like he deserves that contract until 2029. And I'm not seeing a crazy amount of effort from him. So I don't think you're maybe totally wrong, but I do think Joel Embiid wants to play. Like, I just think he's cooked, bro. And the Sixers are screwed for signing that extension. Embiid's situation, I'm never really coming at Joel Embiid personally, myself. What else we got in the chat, man? Q&A in the chat, bro, before we get out of here. Q&A in the chat. Or we can go over to Twitter and look at the Twitter reporters. No, I just want to do a Q&A in the chat, man. Throw anything in the chat. Hot takes, questions, concerns. Ask me questions in the chat. It can be about the Sixers. It can be about the NBA. It can be about another sport. It can be about anything. It can be a personal question. I don't care. 10 minutes of Q&A in the chat starting now. It's never personal. It's business. Facts. I believe that. Fact. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. If Embiid wants to play, he should give some salary back to sign some real players. Well, that's not a, Howie, that's not a terrible point. It's not a terrible point because, like, do you not, like, he said he feels bad that Maxey's carrying the team right now because he wants to be out there. That's what he said, right? But do you feel bad that you're getting paid $60 million a year and preventing the 76ers from giving Tyrese Maxey quality teammates to play with every night? Do you feel bad that Tyrese Maxey's running mate is Justin Edwards because they don't have any money to spend? You know? So there's that too, you know. What we got? Who would you want to replace Nick Nurse as head coach? I haven't even thought about it yet, man. I just want him gone, but it is what it is. He's going to get fired this year, bro. What player do you think is the... I need a pause button, bro. I wanted to hit it again. It didn't work again. Didn't work the second time, but yeah, we're not reading that one. Should VJ be the center of the offense while Maxey is off the court? Well, absolutely not. I've said that about 357 times. Just in this episode alone, absolutely not. VJ Edgecombe has never played point guard before. It makes absolutely no sense for him to be running the offense in the second unit as a 20-year-old. It makes no sense at all. What else we got? Is Grimes a turnover machine? Yes. We looked better without him against the Wizards. Well, it is the Wizards. Although the Warriors without Steph and Jimmy Butler pretty much are the Wizards. And that's not a bad point. It's not a bad point. Because there were times in the fourth quarter, again, just like last game, or 2 games ago, there were times in the fourth quarter where Maxey wasn't being double-teamed and other players on the 76ers were trying to create things and turning the ball over. And one of them was Quentin Grimes a couple of times. One of them was also VJ Edgecombe. I think, there was a clear strategy to get the ball out of Maxey's hands, and the Sixers were feeding into that. And but I don't think they were aggressive enough in getting Maxey the ball in the fourth quarter in certain situations. But Grimes is Grimes, man. Grimes is he's a really good bench player. And, I think he definitely tried to cash in off of the year that he had last year. It didn't work. No NBA team offered him the $25 million that he thought he was worth. Nobody even offered him $20 million. I think the Sixers offered 17. 17 a year for 3 years, I think the Sixers offered, maybe. No, it wasn't even 17, bro. It was like less. It was like 11. No, they offered him 3 years, 27. The Sixers only offered him $9 million a year, and he turned it down. And he's not going to get the paycheck that he thinks he's going to get. Because this year he has shown everybody that he is the bench player that all the NBA executives thought he was, the ones that didn't give him the money, because he's good and he's bad. He's a bench player. He is. He's a bench player. You come in off the bench. Can he give you some microwave offense? He's a great defender. Don't get me wrong either. But he's a guy that if he's out there too long, he's going to start dribbling the ball off his foot and throwing the ball over the backboard, and he's going to have 4 turnovers in 30 seconds, I think NBA starters are consistent and reliable, and bench players are really good basketball players, but a little too unpredictable to be starters. And I think that's what Quentin Grimes is, man. I think he's a little too unpredictable, to be a starter. Swan Delay, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Let's give you a bang for that. What would you do if you had jury duty while Paul George was on trial? I would act... Well, first of all, they would kick me out of the jury because I'm a Sixers content creator, and they would be like, this guy clearly has a biased opinion about Paul George. He's not allowed to be in the jury. You would have to pick... They would have to pick 12 people that don't know anything about Paul George. So I wouldn't be allowed in the jury. But if they did allow me in there, I would stay silent the whole time. I would act like I have no opinion on Paul George as personally, and then I would vote guilty immediately. As soon as I was able to vote, I would vote guilty immediately. Do you think anyone would take Embiid or PG in a trade? No. Nope, absolutely not. Why would you? People seem to think teams willingly want to give a lot of value. Yeah, exactly. People seem to think... I got to start reading these fully because people listen on the podcast and then they're like, what was the question? You didn't read the question the whole way. People seem to think teams willingly want to give a lot of value for max contracts who never play. Yeah, no. All you got to do is think about it the other way. If you were another NBA team, would you pay max money? Like, yeah, of course we want to get rid of Paul George. We want to get out of the Joel Embiid contract situation. But you got to think of it the other way. Would you want to pay max money for Paul George? No, of course not. Would you want to pay max money for Joel Embiid? No, you wouldn't. Who would? They don't play. They don't play. Hey, two people fighting in the chat. Knock it off, or we're gonna have to ban you, bro. We don't want to ban you. We don't want to ban you. We don't want to ban you. Take it over to Facebook or something. Take it over to the DMs, man. Take it over to the DMs. Embiid to Portland for Jeremy Grant and some trash may work, as they will ice Embiid this year so he can team up with Dame next season. Brother, my guy, Joel Embiid is on an extension that doesn't kick in until next season. He's too cooked right now to play more than 20 minutes twice a week. Who's trading to pay him max money until 2029? It doesn't make any sense. Not even a tanking team would strap themselves into that contract for 4 years, man. You guys got to stop hoping that somebody would trade for Joel Embiid, because it doesn't make any sense. Grimes will keep the opposing team in the game. He's good at it. Does Paul George, McCain, Grimes, and 3 firsts get it done for Giannis? Do the Sixers have 3 firsts? Look, I will say this, and I don't like to overvalue first-round picks, right? Because the NBA draft is a crapshoot, right? But the Clippers are bad, and that's about to be over really soon. And the Clippers are about to be in the basement next season or the season after that. And the 76ers have their unprotected 2028 first-round pick. That pick could be at the top of the draft. Now, who knows? Maybe the Sixers by 2028 are also at the top of the draft. But that pick could be at the top of the draft. That pick has a ton of value. If teams are looking at it like Victor Wembanyama or Cooper Flagg, right? It depends on the draft. It depends if there's a generational talent in there. But that pick has a crazy amount of value because you're potentially getting a Victor Wembanyama or a Cooper Flagg with that pick. So if the Sixers trade that pick, that could get it done for Giannis. McCain has value based on what he did last season. I don't think Nick Nurse is helping his value by having no Jared McCain game plan whatsoever. You know, McCain has to do everything himself when he's out there. He's out there fighting for his life. He's out there creating everything out of nothing. He's out there defending his own brand because Nick Nurse isn't helping him out by running any type of set play for him or even letting him run the second unit. But I just have a feeling that other NBA teams would have, you know, way too much to offer in a Giannis trade, which honestly, I hate to say it, could be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Who are like 23-1, have the MVP on their team. Looks like they're going to walk through the NBA again this season and win the finals, barring any major injury. And they have a plethora of draft picks coming their way, including this year's Clippers pick, which is looking like it might be at the top of the draft also. Imagine OKC. Imagine OKC pulls off a Giannis trade. That would have to be vetoed by the NBA, right? That would have to be like the David Stern veto on the Chris Paul trade back in the day, which, by the way, that's how long Chris Paul has been in the NBA. David Stern vetoed a Chris Paul trade to the Lakers. They would have to veto that trade, right? DJ won't ban me. He loves me, bro. We go way back like DJ and Maxi. Yeah, but if you're fighting and, you know, threatening other people in the chat and stuff, I have to, you know. So just cut it out, man. You know, respect this as the business that it is, and I'll respect you. You know what I mean? Let's see. What else? Only thing that would help the Sixers cap-wise if Embiid retired. Spurs and Atlanta have better packages for Giannis. Atlanta. Yeah. What else we got in the chat, bro? Maxey never makes that block without DJ's encouragement post. Facts. The people don't know that I replied to a Tyrese Maxey story on Instagram, and I said, "You are making history, young king. Keep your foot on the gas." And he responded with the 100 emoji. Now, look, he didn't take time out of his day and typed anything. He didn't say, like, "Thank you so much. You're the best Sixers content creator on earth." He just gave me an emoji, but still. Basically, me and Tyrese Maxey are best friends, and he is performing the way that he is because of my personal encouragement via Instagram DM. That is true.
That's called motherfucker, boy.
Let's see. What else? All right, one more take, and I'm out of here, bro. One more take, and I'm out of here. One more take, and I'm out of here. One quick Google search will show you. Okay, let's see. Besides VJ and Maxey, who's the future of this organization? VJ and Maxey, bro. There is no future besides VJ and Maxey. Because I don't think it's Jared McCain. I think Jared McCain has a potential to be an NBA star, but I don't think it's on the Sixers with VJ and Maxey. I think he's the odd man out. I think they end up trading him at some point. Probably not this year. Probably not even next year. But I think they end up trading Jared McCain at some point, especially when Daryl Morey inevitably gets fired and a new GM comes in here and tries to clean things up. Nick Nurse is the future. Full court press and release. Thank you again for another super chat, my guy. Loving this Q&A so far. Keep it up, bro. I actually have 2 back-to-back questions. What was your favorite Sixers clutch win? What would be your all-time 76ers lineup and why? All-time favorite Sixers clutch win? All-time favorite Sixers clutch win, man. I think it was... This is just off the top of my head, and I do have a bad memory, but it was Allen Iverson versus the Toronto Raptors. I don't remember if it was a playoff game. I don't remember if it was 2001 when they made that run and they beat the Raptors in 7 games. But there was a game where the Raptors were inbounding the ball to run out the clock. Iverson got a steal with hardly any time left. Mark Zumoff was going crazy. Iverson with the steal! He's going to put it up at the buzzer. He lays it in at the buzzer. Game-winning steal and layup at the buzzer. Allen Iverson with the baggy shorts and the shooting sleeve, and the vibes were immaculate. You're going to make me cry just remembering my childhood, and just that era of NBA basketball was fucking amazing. Number 2, what would be your all-time 76ers lineup and why? My all-time 76ers lineup. Everybody healthy? Oh, man. All-time 76ers lineup, everybody healthy. I guess I got to go the 3 players that won the championship. It's the only championship, 1983. So I got to go Mo Cheeks, Dr. J, and Moses Malone. And then I'll just put Maxey in there. I'll just put healthy Maxey in there, and I'll put healthy Embiid in there. I'll run Twin Towers, Moses Malone, and Joel Embiid. I would love to put Charles Barkley in there too, but nah. Dr. J, Joel Embiid, Moses Malone. That's my all-time 76ers lineup, man. Oh, I didn't say Iverson. I didn't even say Iverson, bro. It's too late. I'm tired, bro. It's too late. I'm tired. Obviously, I would have Iverson in there. I was going off the top of my head. I didn't even say Iverson, man. Just delete this part of the stream. But thank you guys so much for the Q&A at the end of the show, man. Thank you for listening to the stream. Thank you for pushing the podcast numbers. One more time, if you want to do me a solid, go right over to Run It Back Philly on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. We are right behind Rights to Ricky Sanchez when you type Sixers on Apple Podcasts. The audio numbers are going crazy this year. I know you guys get in your car and it's on your Apple CarPlay and all that. Thank you so much for consistently listening to the show. Go right over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a 5-star review, and I'll read it on the show. Actually, let me read some of them, man. Let me read some before we get out here. Let me read some of the most recent reviews, man. We got, let's see. The Best Sixers Podcast. Greenberg Legler. That's all he said. The Best Sixers Podcast. Thanks, man. Viper Reap said, I've been watching since 2023 because I'm a fan of all Philly teams. This one here gives you raw truth, no fluff, dedicated fan through the tough years. True 76ers sicko. Highly recommend. Thank you for the Apple Podcast review. And we got 675 Craig. I've been watching DJ for quite a few years. The energy he brings day in and day out, even in the desert dry offseason moments, is unmatched. He's by far the most authentic Sixers show based on this sole reason. He's just a guy with a mic, not an insider, and has a certain agenda, or he has to dance around things. He doesn't dance around. He welcomes the debate. His interaction with listeners and people in the chat is a good time, unless it's anything about Bum Simmons. If you want to feel like you're just chilling with your buddies and talking about the team that delivers us turmoil every year, this is the show for you. Bro, what a 5-star review that was, man. Thank you for that. Yeah, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I'll read it on the show. You guys have a great night. I'll see you soon.